Recording.
No. That's all I care about.
Welcome to Thoughts from the Movies.
Hello!
We're derailed because Justin, like literally 30 seconds before we came on, was like, "I can't wait to get to the casino." So now
That's all I care about. That's all I need. Yeah. Next Friday, baby.
So if you want to talk movies with Justin at the slot machine, please head down to the Rivers Casino.
We're doing a remote section next week from the blackjack tables.
On the blackjack table.
Absolutely.
Oh, shit. Okay, well, maybe we should watch 21 or the
Rounders, boom, great idea.
Any
Love
of the Oceans, that would have been good.
Yeah, or Oceans.
You guys are saying this jokingly. I'm like, it's a great idea.
All right, so this week we watched the 1999 remake of Beauty and the Beast, Sleeping Beauty. The Matrix, where we dive into a cult classic and arguably one of the defining movies of the 90s and early 2000s, like 90s, early 2000s. What was our overall, just off the bat, how did you feel, often?
I had not seen this movie for a long time, so everything that I had watched about it before was gone. So I was going into it with a new perspective, and it was pretty good. There was a lot of interesting concepts, philosophies that jogged my brain, and we'll get into that more later. I'll let you guys go on with it. What do you got?
I'm kind of in the same boat. Yeah, I had only seen it once before, and it was such a long time ago. And I think it was like late at night. Like, I just remember kind of going in and out of it and being so confused by the end that I didn't remember anything about it except like the red pill and the blue pill thing. And then there were a couple cool action sequences. But so now looking back, when I went to rewatch it, I couldn't remember really anything about it. But yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, looking at it from the sci-fi genre and seeing, how much influence it had in other movies that later would come that were very similar to it. I'm not going to give it my number right now, but it was enjoyable and very cool to rewatch after so long, for sure. But Josh, you had never seen it, so
Never seen it.
How blown was your mind, or how much did you hate it because it wasn't The Departed?
Let's call a spade a spade. It's not The Departed. No.
No movie is.
No movie is. No, let's call a spade a spade. It was a great action movie, right? Like, cool sequences, the effects held up, like, sci-fi-y enough, like, good plot twist. Keanu, like, not at the top of his powers, but thinking about how in demand Keanu is now, and, like, how this is, like, an early movie for him. Like, I don't know, man. Like, at first, I totally anticipated hating on this movie, because, like, 45 minutes in, I'm like, oh, that's it? Okay. Like, I thought, like, this was this dystopian future, but then it kind of dawned on me that it's 20 years later, and that a lot of the things that they were afraid of in this movie are trending towards being very truthful in today's society. With people playing Animal Crossing, treating it like it is their real life. So, the idea that we would live in a simulation that's a video game, and that we would live through our avatars and all that kind of stuff does not feel so maybe sci-fi as it did in 1999.
Especially being in quarantine, right?
Right. Yeah,
We're virtually living through our devices at this point.
It does not seem so far-fetched, and I think that kind of steals a little bit of the movie's charm, because the plot isn't so far-fetched anymore, which kind of bums me out. But at the end of the day, like, cool action movie, cool music, cinematography was badass. Keanu was I think he's a terrible actor, but I love watching him for some reason. I can't think of a reason why. Um, so like, all in all, like, was not bummed while watching the movie. It's not the same feeling I had last week when I was like, is this over yet? I'm so bored. I can't wait to rip this thing apart. Now it's very much a like, oh, that was a cool movie. I'm glad I watched that. That was fun. Like, that's it.
Did you have any confusion about the plot or like getting too complicated or too convoluted at any points?
Nah.
Yeah.
It was, and Morpheus, like, when Morpheus is explaining everything, like, let me go through the notes I wrote down. Because I think, like, also, this isn't Mystic River, if I was confused when I saw Morpheus.
Yeah.
So, like, when he's explaining what the Matrix is. Okay, so, the mental projection of your digital self, basically an avatar. The construction is the waiting lobby when you're waiting to go into the video game. And then what is real life is basically Call of Duty, right? Like, literally, the Call of Duty is real events that happen just being, like, projected, and you are a character inside of that, and you're just running around inside the projection, right? So, like, I was pretty easily able to get a hold of what the Matrix is, whereas, like, I think in '99, it might have been a little bit more difficult to understand what the Matrix would be, because we did not have online gaming, we did not have Facebook and live streaming and all that other kind of stuff, like, makes a lot of sense. Ultima Online was 1997.
Love it. No, what's Ultima 97? What's
Ultima
happening?
Online was a computer game that you could play online. Very similar to like the World of Warcraft.
Okay, gotcha. Well, to extend on your point a little bit, I think another reason it's easier for people to understand now is because we've had so many movies come out since The Matrix that were about alternate realities and going, taking someone's mind and putting it somewhere else, whether it's like Inception, which I thought this movie was actually really similar to Christopher Nolan's movie, or Gamer, or The Truman Show, or Surrogates, or like all these different things. Yeah.
Even argue Avatar was that?
Absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely, Austin. So, like, no, I was not confused, but again, I think that's the watching it in 2020 versus watching it, in 19. And also being 30, like, and not 10. Like,
yeah.
Watching this as a 10-year-old, this would have been perplexing to me. I would have been like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And I think, too, having a cinema degree helps because the Wachowski sisters, gave some really good visual clues as to when, even in the beginning, he was jumping. They gave us a really good idea when the jump happened. So every time Neo woke up, the contrast changed. So, like, he's, like, in his dark, dingy, like, room, right? And everything's all black. And then now he's in the office, and everything's bright, and everything's white. And, like, it's all in front of him, right? So, like, those contrast changes happen throughout the movie. Because every time they jump into the real world, it's bright and washed out and, like, really overwhelming. And every time they're in their spaceship or whatever, like, their clothes are different, the tone is different, the coloring is different, even the camera movement's a little bit different. So, like, as far as somebody who is, like, constantly preaching the production side of it, like, no fucking stupid POVs in this one, right? We got wide establishing shots. The camera moved when it needed to, not just to move for fucking shits and giggles. Like, there was some really good shit. When they used close-ups, it meant something. This was basic production storytelling 101 in a cute little sci-fi package with Keanu Reeves, like, fucking good. I'll watch John Wick 70 million times a day. Like, this was John Wick before John Wick.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. I mean, there's a lot of cool things about this, and the Wachowskis, their career's really interesting. What they've done, they are really talented filmmakers, but they've sort of made some projects that since The Matrix they haven't really had as much success with, which is kind of a shame. But they're coming back for the fourth one next year supposedly, so we'll see if that gets them back on track. But have you seen a lot of their other work, Sense8 or Speed Racer or anything that the Wachowskis have done outside of The Matrix?
I feel like I've seen Speed Racer.
But yeah, that was with Emil Hirsch, the real like candy cane colored, fluorescent, vibrant one. That was like 2008, maybe earlier.
I have not seen Cloud Atlas, but it's been on my to-do list.
Oh my God, Cloud Atlas is just, dude, I can't even. There's like not even words for that. It's 3 hours long, and it's basically. It's so hard to understand. Like, it's so many different stories happening that are like so metaphysically tied together. Like, it's bizarre and it's very polarizing. You'll either like fall in love with it or be like, I don't understand the thing that's going on here.
I love V for Vendetta.
Yeah, saw that one.
I think that this movie was badass. Also, obviously, it has the one and only beautiful Natalie Portman, who is.
And who else can pull off a shaved head like that? Come on.
Who's Sergeant Jane or G.I. Jane?
Demi Moore.
Demi Moore. That's about it. It's a short list.
Yeah.
It's a short list.
Yeah. Charlize in Mad Max Fury Road was pretty good.
Yeah, that's it.
As Furiosa.
Still a short list. 3 is not a long list.
Yeah.
Monica did not pull it off in Friends as well. So, can we just, I'll just go through the movie, like, basically. Unless, Justin, you have, like, very interesting points you want to bring up?
No, do your thing, and then I'll come in as needed.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, the whole intro scene, like, we watch Trinity, like, beat up a bunch of cops and stuff. And this is the first sign that I know I'm going to, like, at least enjoy watching this movie, is that it's all practical effects. Like, yes, there is 3D and motion used at some points, particularly, like, some of the fire and that kind of stuff, the bullets. But the hand-to-hand combat is practical effects. And so, at the end of the day, I know that this movie will age better than Avatar will, or any of the other, like, where they totally CGI everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, immediately when I saw that it was all practical, mostly practical effects, I was fine. Then I see the first Agent Smith.
AKA Elrond, my man.
Right?
Yeah. AKA Megatron. Hello.
And this is not the only Lord of the Rings crossover, because later Neo's boss is David Aston, who's in Lord of the Rings and Underworld.
Boom.
Like,
Underworld, yeah.
This is a well-casted movie as far as, like, here, nerd culture, here's all your, like, characters that you love. Like,
right.
If Sean Penn would have been in it, it just would have been over the top. Not Sean Penn. Who's Ned Stark?
Sean Bean.
Sean Bean.
Yeah.
So then, we meet our protagonist, who's played by John Reeves, Mr. Anderson, I can't remember his first name, or Neo. We find out that Neo is selling some weird underground micro discs that are worth $2,000. Kind of bizarre. In 1999, $2,000 is like a fuck ton of money. Like, think about it. That's a lot of money in '99.
Mm-hmm.
And then we meet Trinity and Neo meet in this like underground bar club thingy. And then this is kind of where originally I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be mad about this movie. Like, how does he know who Morpheus is? Because Trinity immediately starts talking about Morpheus. And he's like, oh yes, Morpheus, I know all about Morpheus. And like, part of it, you could just chalk it up to like, he's trying to play cool, but
Mm-hmm.
But then, the reality of it is like, how does he know who Morpheus is? If he dream about Morpheus because I don't remember that part of the dream. Now, I know that somebody was talking to him through the computer, but we've already established at that point that that was Trinity talking to him through the computer. So, like, how does Keanu know about the Matrix and Morpheus?
Right. Well, I think there's probably two explanations, right? I mean, one of it, you could just chalk it up to him being the chosen one. He just knows things, right? Like, he just has this knowledge that maybe he doesn't know where it comes from, but it's there, right?
Which I believe Keanu Reeves has in real life. Like, I don't think he had to learn Kung Fu. He was just like, I know how to do this already.
Oh, when at the end when he's just one-handing it so crazy fast.
Yeah.
But anyway, so it's you either have it could the dark web and it's computer hacking and it's all this shady stuff. Like, that could just be the world that, Morpheus has been looking for the chosen one for a long time. So his name is, I'm sure, been in the atmosphere, and certainly he's looking for people or rumors and things like that are just on the dark web or on that side of things. So I see what you're saying where it's not fully explained, but I think I don't know. It didn't bother me too much, I suppose.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I actually like Justin's second point with how it's like a hacking thing, because that's what Trinity said when she first met him, that she had always believed that she was looking for someone. I think that's like a major point to the hacking universe that they've been trying to find. You can even mark him up, I guess, as a legend in hacking.
Sure, okay.
To find. So maybe that's always the hacker's dream, like Utopia, to find the one true, like, person of that caliber.
And we don't really know what Neo's deal is. I mean, we know he is a hacker, and people come to him for things that they're willing to pay for, but we don't know much of what he does or what his goal is or the things that he's been into. So I think that's probably the logical part, is that it's just, when you're so deep into that world and so talented, those are the types of things, you're going to be searching out as the creators and the mythical figures and things like that.
Okay, I buy that.
If you're selling discs for $2,000,
True.
There's something. I believe it's probably like government secrets or something. That can only be my thing for that.
Cool. Okay. Something this movie did an awesome job of. Okay, bye, Austin.
I got this. I got it.
I was fixing the lighting. Sorry.
I think something that this movie did a great job of, and I'll point to, hold your breath, the original Michael Bay Transformer movie, as also being very good at this. We never get too far without action.
Mm-hmm.
So many action movies, like, build it up, and then just, it's action for 45 minutes, right, to finish the movie. This did a great job of giving us, like, little tastes of, like, cool things that are going to happen, right? So the next day, Neo is working his shitty desk job, and then Agent Smith comes to arrest Agent Smith-Eye? Is that what Smith?
Just Agent Smith.
Nope, I'm saying Smithsonians.
Smithsonians, okay.
Oh, nice.
I'll go with that one. They come to arrest him, and he gets a call from Morpheus, and Morpheus is going to attempt to walk in to escape him. Keanu, it gets a little bit too tough for Keanu, and he just quits. Which, like, first, I was originally like, what the fuck? You can't just quit. You're the chosen one. Like, what the hell? But then, the more I thought about it, I was like, that's kind of cool that he just quit. Like, I'm kind of okay with that. Like, I'd quit. I'd be out there on that ledge, the cell phone's up, like, nah, fuck this. I'm done.
Yeah, he was up there, man. He's like, just climb out the window and onto the scaffolding and go up to the roof.
Right.
And he's like 90 stories up. You're like, okay.
So then he so then he's being interrogated. Agent Smith lets the monster from the end of Spaceballs crawl into Neo's belly button.
Right? Yeah. Well, first he does the whole thing like, well, what if you couldn't talk? And then all of a sudden he's like Deadpool, and he just got the thing on his face, It's like, that was out of nowhere. That was crazy. But yeah, then they shoot the little bug into him, right? That whole scene was crazy. that scene was. Is that scene supposed to be? Because they, the bug was found in Neo later, so that obviously happened. So that was them in the Matrix, and it really happened. They plugged him with the bug, and then just let him go. And the bug's purpose was to track him later.
Yeah.
Because they let him go, knowing that Morpheus and his crew were going to show up and take him back to the ship, and they're trying to find out where the ship is.
Gotcha.
That's the whole. As much as like all this stuff's happening around Neo, the bigger scheme of the thing is that the Smithsonians, are trying to find where Morpheus is in the real world, where that ship is.
Yeah.
And at the end of the movie, they find it, right? And then Morpheus hits the destruct all button. So they're trying to, because they know Morpheus' crew is going to come get Neo, so they're hoping they can get the tracker and get him back.
Okay, here's a question that is, I guess, like, I think when I got done watching this movie, I was like, this is probably one of those ones where if I really thought about it and dissected it, there would probably be a lot of things that didn't have answers or that I didn't understand, plot-wise. Here's one of them, right? Why now with Agent Smith? Like, why are they just going to Neo now? Like, what triggers this?
He just got contacted by Morpheus.
You think Morpheus contacting him made Agent Smith and his company know that he was the guy?
Because Neo's stuff is tapped. The lines are tapped. He talks about that in the office. He's like, this line is tapped. We don't have much time.
Right, but a sophisticated computer hacker wouldn't allow his network to be hacked so easily or so tapped. I would think he would have safeguards and cybersecurity and protocols and things like that in place to protect himself.
Yes, but what he's protecting himself from is what the Matrix is conceiving him as the internet.
True.
Not
You look at it.
The Matrix.
Yeah. If
What?
he all right, I think I see where Josh is going with this. I'll try to explain it really quickly. He can put up safeguards, but the Matrix knows that he's that person, so they're going to assume that it looks like safeguards, but it's not.
So, like...
Is that where you're going with?
Kind of.
Okay.
So, two things. One, they're using Neo as bait to get Morpheus to come get Neo so they can find Morpheus. Right? We've established that. The reason why Neo, ultimate computer hacker, cannot protect himself from the Agent Smiths of the world is because he doesn't even know it exists yet.
Okay, yeah.
He doesn't know what the Matrix is. How do you protect yourself from something you don't even know exists?
Okay.
So,
and you're saying the whole thing is set in motion because Morpheus or whoever it was reaches out to Neo, and the agents are able to realize that happened. I see.
Because otherwise, if they knew it was Neo, they could have just went and got him from the beginning when he was a kid or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, why, like, what event triggers the beginning of the movie? But I guess I see what you're saying now. Okay, I'll buy that. Okay.
Because they know Morpheus is trying to take them down.
Yeah, they know Morpheus has tried before. I think this was a deleted subplot, but he had 5 other guys that he thought was the chosen one.
Yeah,
I think in the later Matrix movies they show like there were other versions of the Matrix, and each one had their own chosen one, and it gets super complicated. But okay.
So Neo gets picked up by Morpheus's crew, all in patent leather, which was pretty funny. Then they get the bug remover out. Okay, and I'm like, cool. The bug remover looks like Men in Black, like cool shit, right? Then they plugged it into the cigarette lighter, and I stopped the movie and yelled at the television. Why?
You gotta juice it somehow.
You're using futuristic technology. It should run on a battery. 1999, your Walkman ran on a battery. Fuck you.
Batteries batteries actually play a really interesting role in this movie, right? Because the guy in the car calls Keanu Reeves a copperhead, right? Which is what essentially a battery is, and the humans are powering the aliens' society, right? After the AI took over, and the humans are now the power source, so they are essentially batteries. So, interesting connection there, though.
Yeah, I think Morpheus even brings that up when he's talking to him. Like, he shows him that humans have now become this, and he holds up a battery.
Right. 27 minutes in, Neo finds out about the Matrix, which he already knew about, kind of. Also, so when Morpheus offers him the pill, there is no pause there. He just goes right for the blue pill, or the red. I can't even remember which one. But like, he just goes right for it. There's no like, oh man, my entire life, blah 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 blah. Like, even in shitty like Bruce Almighty movies, right? Like, Jim Carrey will pause to think about leaving his entire life behind. Not Keanu Reeves. He is full send. He's just going for it.
Right.
We're fourth of the way through the movie at this point. Then, like, we get this wild, like, because he's breaking the Matrix, right? He's escaping the Matrix. And I think the Matrix probably came first, but the amount of, like, visual effects that were later used in music videos from the Matrix, like, I can't, like, it's which came first, the chicken or the egg scenario. Like, he gets, like, the liquid thing, which is, like, in that TLC video, Waterfalls. It's in O-Town's My Liquid Dream. Like, the whole, like, bullet bending thing is on Freak on a Leash by Korn. Like, there's just so much, like, 90s awesomeness about that, but, like, as it's happening, I'm like, yes, I feel something again. Like, I feel like Bill Clinton is president again.
I don't know about music videos, but those were all effects that would be later used in movies a lot more. Like, they say one of the things about this movie that puts it in the league that it is like the influence that it had on action movies, specifically on superhero movies, using the wire techniques for action sequences and taking sort of the Eastern Asian martial arts aspect of action and incorporating it into mainstream America, which would later be used in films like X-Men and Spider-Man and all those things that would come right after The Matrix. So, and it's credited with sort of opening people up to the influence of Asian film and martial arts. Like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon came out the year after this, was a big success. And the Kill Bills, obviously, are ones that have a lot of that influence. So this movie's action sequences have a lot of influence in later movies. So I don't know if it was, like you said, like if the Wachowskis drew specifically from the 90s music video world, or if they were just innovators, but there's certainly a lot of movies since The Matrix, many of them that have been influenced by the scenes there with either the slow bullet flying through the air, or like you said, the action sequences on the wires and things like that. I mean, they've been parodied a fair amount in a lot of comedies and things like that, but even in terms of actual action movies and, more dramatic thrillers and things, it's been used a fair amount since then.
So
duplicated.
Both Korn, Freak on a Leash, and Waterfalls came before the Matrix.
Okay, cool.
But that's like a really interesting place to find inspiration as a filmmaker, right? Like, we've talked about that relationship between music videos and movies already, and a lot of really great directors get their start there. And so to borrow technology from there just makes a lot of sense.
Sure. And that's the beauty of music videos, is you get to experiment and play around and do more things that are risky or interesting than you do in a commercial film, where you can't always take those chances. It's more art. I don't know if that's the right way to phrase it, but you can certainly take bigger risks and play around more, I think, in music videos.
Well, and in the 90s, try to name some bigger bands than TLC and Korn. They are definitely on a short list, so pretty awesome. Something else, too, that I think The Matrix does really well is it puts comedy in to give you a breath from the seriousness of it. Like Keanu Reeves, how about I give you the finger and you give me my phone call? Like, Now, granted, it's because Keanu's saying it, right? Like, that's got
Sure.
90% of it. But, like, they give the breaths of, like, the chuckle moment. You're like, ha ha ha, that was clever. Like, and I appreciate that a lot. Especially, like, in a movie that is so meant to be overwhelming. Like,
Mhm.
a small, like, little haha moment. And that's, like, again, I guess I'm just going to keep referencing Transformers when we talk about Matrix, but I think that's probably a fair comparison. Where, like, it's all action, it's all sci-fi, and, like, somebody who didn't think they were anything becoming, savior of the world. But, like, that's one thing that Michael Bay has always done well is incorporate comedy into his
Mhm.
movies. Which
Well, it's like you said, it goes back to giving the audience a breather, right? It's a well-balanced movie, so you have the big, cool, sophisticated action sequences, and then, that gets people very amped up, and then you have to have them come down a little bit, and you take the time to maybe have some exposition or explain a little bit more, or some quiet moments, or like you said, the comedy before going back into these big, crazy action sequences, and it creates a very nice rhythm to the movie. It's not too much for you, but it's not too slow either. You have a little comedy, you have a little action, so it's a well-balanced movie.
Right. So we go through. Neo gets flushed out of the egg. Uh, gets onto Morpheus' ship. We get like the training sequence, which is awesome. Another just like great little moment where Keanu just looks at Morpheus and goes, "I know kung fu." And like
Yeah.
Morpheus goes, "No," like hot garbagely awesome. Um, Austin, like the plot is now set up, right? We know that Neo is going to help Morpheus take down the Matrix. How are you feeling 46 minutes into the movie, knowing like you roughly have about an hour left?
I'm feeling good on it. If you want to separate the time frame, normally in a movie, the plot normally has to come in, I would think, like before the hour, and then the
Sure,
entire rest of it is spent on achieving that plot.
absolutely.
You can have your little training sessions and everything you want to put in there. I'm feeling good because I feel like I'm going to get a good experience with the time I have left. They've explained enough, and the Matrix is going to obviously, thrill us with so much of its infinite knowledge and how it's perceived.
Justin, are you like intrigued at 46 minutes in? Are you kind of like, eh? Like, where are you at this point?
This is what after when they
46,
start to do their like practice kung fu
yeah,
in the
like,
arena.
like
Yeah,
he's gonna go take him to see the Oracle, which is gonna kick us into full game.
right. Now, I'm still into it. I mean, because it's such an interesting concept, right? And it takes a long time to get to where we are. Like, it takes 30 minutes or 40 minutes to get to the whole Morpheus telling him exactly what's going on, and then they have to do the whole training sequence where Neo gets all his skills and he learns more and more. I mean, that's in and itself is a big chunk of the movie, and it happens sort of at that time frame. So, yeah, I'm still into it. I'm still going. Yeah.
Here's where we're going to reach a point in the movie. The only part of the movie that I absolutely have a problem with is here. So Morpheus is going to take Neo to meet the Oracle, and the Oracle is like God, kind of. I don't know.
Ish.
It's like
Yeah.
an old black lady baking cookies, which is awesome, but also like why? And then
And she is in the Matrix.
yeah,
The Oracle that they go see is a woman in the Matrix,
right,
which is interesting. Because
yeah,
before that, Morpheus is telling him that everyone in the Matrix is like in Inception, how everyone's kind of a projection of the subconscious. Like in the Matrix, he's saying that everyone else is just projecting their own subconscious into their person or whatever. So they're basically like, when Neo's in there, they're all basically just like non-existent people's minds or whatever.
right,
And then he's like, except this lady who you should trust because she knows everything and she's going to show you the way,
right.
which was
To tell him that he's nothing,
right.
and that
Yeah, it was a weird throw in there.
right, and also like so Neo does not back away from being the chosen one at any point. Like when he's offered the kill, he just jumps up and takes it. When he's getting pulled through training, he's just like he's all on board. Like they even talk about like how he hasn't taken a break in 11 hours or whatever, right? Like he's full committed. He's full set. So like for the Oracle to like have to tell me not to like make him believe it, like I didn't buy that. Like he believed it. He was cool. He was like, yeah, absolutely, I'm the chosen one. Look at me. I've been looking for this my entire life. You guys found me. You told me I'm the chosen one. Like, let's fucking go. And so like for the Oracle to like put him in his place, like I'm like, I don't care. I don't need that. And then it also doubles down on like the love plot at this point, which maybe is set up for further movies, but like the love plot to me is such like the A story is Neo, the B story is Morpheus versus the whatever or the robot spider things, and like that's like a C or a D plot line, and it like and that's why I made the joke at the beginning that it's Sleeping Beauty reloaded, because like the kiss wakes him up like at the end. Like I don't know, man. Like I didn't need the love plot.
Right.
It didn't buy me anything, and the Oracle doubling down on it makes it even weirder. And Neo does not seem interested in Trinity at all. Like he's just kind of like swept up in the whole thing. He hasn't got time to get his.
Yeah. And she doesn't seem to be into him at all. Like, no. I mean, other than like he's the chosen one, and that's interesting. But for me, like it was definitely kind of out of left field at the end, where she's like, by the way, my secret is the Oracle said I would fall in love with the chosen one. Right. And then she kisses him and brings him back to life, like you said. Like, I don't know, Austin, I don't know if that made sense to you, but to me, I was like, so like she's just bringing him back now with this random kiss. Like it felt for me like it didn't really mesh all that well.
So I get the point of the Oracle. I do have a problem with the whole love thing because it's essentially out of the blue and thrown in like at the end. And I think that was a writing thing to try, if they had to pull one out of the rabbit's hat to bring him back. I think that's what they were going for. Personally, I thought it was stupid, but I digress. I don't know. The Oracle for me seems more of like a sage rather than a good guy or a bad guy. A person based on knowledge that can bring that to you at any point. Almost like a Switzerland neutral kind of thing, and that might seem odd depending on how the film was projected, but yeah.
I think we agree on that.
I get that, but it's like she tells Neo specifically, directly, you are not the chosen one, right? And that is, at the end, Morpheus is like, well, she just told you what you needed to hear. And in Neo's head, he goes from completely thinking he's not the chosen one, right? And then towards the climax, he starts believing it for some reason anyway, and ends up becoming the chosen one, despite what she said. Like, I don't see how her telling him he's not the chosen one helped him. It seemed like if she would have told him, it would have gave him the confidence, right? Instead of saying you aren't. So what reason would he have to think that he is? Like, why would he start to believe in himself towards the end, knowing that in the back of his head? Like, well, if she told me I wasn't, then how could I possibly be? Right?
Do you think that chops up to almost like a reverse psychology thing? Telling someone that they're not something for them to go out and prove themselves? Maybe? I don't know.
Maybe.
I think you're right, as in, like, that's what they're going for, Austin, but, like, from a storytelling standpoint, I didn't find it necessary. Because I believe that he's the chosen one.
If anything, I think from a story standpoint, it would have made sense for her to tell him that he is, and then he struggles to live up to that. Like, he doesn't think that he can, be that person, or he's like, I can't do it, I can't be that guy, blah, 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 and then slowly starts to believe in himself, and then finally realizes. Like, I think that would have made more sense if he, like, knew that he was and was struggling to grasp it and to live up to it, rather than he is told that he isn't, and then for some reason later on decides that he is, you know? And also, like, if he's the chosen one, and he's supposed to be faster and stronger and better than everybody, how does Agent Smith pump him full of lead at the end? Like, how does he defeat him that way? And then in which he needs the kiss to bring him back. Like, if he is the chosen one, he shouldn't be defeated by those guys and need Trinity to kiss him back to life or whatever, you know? Like, that was another point. I was like, so now he knows, and we know that he's the chosen one, and he still got his ass kicked.
Okay, so
get us on path. Tell us what's up.
Let me. I've been thinking about this. So let's go back to when Morpheus offered him the choice of the pill.
Okay.
Now, what if she puts in his head that he's not the chosen one, but he has to make that decision for himself? That he is, no matter who tells him what, he has to believe if he is the chosen one or not, no matter what anybody else says. That's what I get that from that. Justin, you look, I don't want to say confused, you look puzzled.
So you're saying that she tells him he's not in order for him to believe it on his own.
Yeah, he has to derive from his own personal and physical well-being if he is or is not the chosen one. Even an all-powerful oracle can tell him he's not the chosen one. It's up to him to make that choice.
I see what you're saying, and I still find that iffy. Like, if you were talking to the oracle yourself, and this all-knowing or whatever, sage, whatever you want to call it, was like, sorry, dude, it's not you, I'd be like, this is me personally, I'd be like, shit, well, all right, it's not me, you know? Like, if they told me it wasn't me, I would probably believe them, you know? If she had said something like, I can't tell you whether or not you're the chosen one, you have to decide it for yourself. Like, if she had led him on a little bit at least, instead of outright telling him no, then I could buy, like, him trying to figure it out for himself. But it's just such a weird reversal for her to be like, no, you're not. I know everything. You're not the thing. And then later he's like, I think I am the thing, you know? I get what you're saying for sure, and that's probably the reason, but I'm not super comfortable with the logic.
You know what's interesting? If they would have left in that there were previous attempts to find the chosen one, and like Morpheus then becomes like this angelical, super like over the top like prophet kind of finding person where he's so desperate to find it, he's just like assigning it to people, right? And then like we go and meet the Oracle, and the Oracle's like, it's not you, or like says something like along the lines of like, many of you have tried before and none of you have become the chosen one, or something like that. That I think glues together better and lends credence to what Austin's saying versus like what we had, which was just like everyone's full send, he's the chosen one. Like some people are iffy, but like 90% of the crew's like, yep, that's him. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that that deleted plot makes a lot of sense with the Oracle. And when they took it away, the Oracle just feels like a trip out of nowhere for no fucking reason.
How about this, by the way? Who the fuck is the Oracle again? It's like, we know it's the Black Lady in the Matrix, right?
Right.
But like, is there ever a line where Morpheus explains who she is or where she came from? Like, I get you want to keep some mystery to it, but like, he could have at least been like, she was a program before the Matrix, or like something. Like, I just don't know who the Oracle is. Like, why are we listening to this person again?
Well,
she's just some random person off the street to us.
Okay. Do you think that have any of you guys seen the other Matrixes? I think maybe that comes into play because I've heard she's in those other ones as well.
Well, and then like, okay, so then if we're diving into plot holes right now, why are Tank and his brother the only real humans that were born outside the Matrix?
That is something that I did wonder, Josh.
And like, if the Oracle was like Tank's mom, Like, and she was like the last human to not get sucked into the Matrix or something, or like the last surviving real human. Like, fucking cool. Yes, you know everything. I believe everything you say. But we go back into the Matrix to meet this person, so she's plugged in somewhere.
Or she's just a program. You know, she could
Yeah.
be like the Smiths, like a sentient AI program who's just like on the good side, or on the, not good or bad like they say in the movie, but you know, this person is willing to help Morpheus and everybody. So yeah, like if this was like a Sarah Connor thing from Terminator, where it's like she's the last one and her son Tank and Bulldozer, whatever the hell his name is, are like the important ones.
Sledgehammer.
Yeah, like yeah, Sledgehammer, whatever hypermasculine piece of machinery.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So I get what you're saying too, but I'm trying to think if they mentioned anything about that. Like it would even been just a throwaway line, but I don't think Morpheus or anybody ever said what the Oracle was born out of or anything like that.
Yeah, and like Neo doesn't need the Oracle.
Doesn't need that orifice, man.
Well, because she's a plot hole. That's why she's an orifice.
Oh, nice. I like what you did there.
It's a good joke.
Wordplay.
Good joke.
Clever.
Neo doesn't need the Oracle to tell him to go save Morpheus. He would have done that on his own.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's just, I don't know. So, while they're meeting the Oracles, we also find out that Cypher has turned full heel and is giving up his comrades, the Smithsonians.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
Because he's tired of the shitty real world and he just wants to live in the Matrix and be happy in that reality.
Which, like, me and Cypher on the same page. Like,
I truly, understood his character. He was a douchebag, but I fully probably would have felt the same way. It's like, this real world sucks. Just put me back in there, and even though it's not real, it'll be real to me, and I'll be happy.
Right. He does the whole bit with the story. So then we get, probably just some of the best half an hour of action. Like it really is. I mean, it's like Die Hard, the end of Die Hard. That's how good it is. Like, helicopters blowing up, this awesome gun sequence where, we have one-handed cartwheels shooting guns. Just fucking awesome. Like, the last 30 minutes of this movie, I was locked in, yes, this is what I came for. Bending over backwards, cool kung fu. We got, Cypher turns on everybody, starts trying to kill people. Tank's not today, just cool big gun. And, for the last half an hour of the movie, it was so awesome. A good friend of mine who likes to talk movies with me all the time, he goes, I like to turn my brain off and see stuff blow up real good. And that's exactly what the last half hour of the Matrix is.
Mm-hmm.
Turn your brain off. We're just gonna watch badass, Bruce Lee level shit and just enjoy it.
Yeah, stylish, well choreographed fight sequences, well shot, cool effects that had never been seen before at that point. So yeah, very fun last half hour. Let me ask you guys this, because this was kind of something that bothered me throughout. The whole idea of when Neo's talking to the kid while waiting for the Oracle, and he's bending the spoon. He's like, don't try to bend the spoon. Just imagine that the spoon's not real, Which also plays into the idea that Morpheus was trying to teach him how to use the Matrix of bending the rules and stuff. It's just don't limit your mind and you can actually do whatever you want to do type of thing. But then he tries to jump over the building and he falls, obviously. But did that concept ever bother you guys? Do you think it should have been easier for him to be good at manipulating the Matrix? Because if he knew that it was real, right, and he saw the world that he was living in was fake and just program and all that stuff, and someone said, you can do whatever you want to do, watch me jump 300 feet away, and then wouldn't you think okay, I guess I can do all that stuff? And I feel like I or someone would believe it more and be able to do more, whereas Neo had so much doubt, in his mind about the things that were possible until the very end.
Well, I interpret that as a big of master-student relationship of trying to find. It's all about no one gets good right away at something. right? Otherwise, the movie would be really short. You have to build up that anguish of trying to learn and balance everything instead of being good at it right away. Otherwise, what's the point of it? What's the struggle? I don't know. I assume Josh has something to say about that because he raised his hand, but
Anakin Skywalker was good at it.
and look where it made him.
Look what happened to that guy.
Yeah, look at the very successful 9 movies that were created around one character. Yes,
Yeah.
Look at it.
Wasn't Doctor Strange kind of like that too? Like, I feel like that's just one that came to my head. Like, he just picked that up right away. The whole, like, wizardry and all that stuff. They were like, you can do this. You're the guy. And he's like, okay. But Austin's right. I mean, there has to be a character journey and a character struggle to accept who they are and what they can do. But I feel like if you see it happen and someone tells you you can do it, I don't know. Maybe it's just the unique world of the Matrix that makes me want to think that he should have been able to do things easier than he was.
See, the other point of it is that this is a throwaway line, but it stuck with me. Morpheus apologizes to him at one point. He's like, "We never pull anybody out that's this old."
Yeah.
So maybe that's part of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they say, like if you're a child, it's easier to learn the second language. Right?
Right. Child and adolescent development. Yeah, it's a lot more easier to understand and process things from a younger age rather than trying to learn them as an adult. I think you're right on that, Josh.
So I think that might be part of why he doesn't grasp it immediately.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you're right. Like, he's been so established in the Matrix as being his world that, like, a child wouldn't know the difference and they'd be more willing to accept it. But him as an adult, everything he's seen and known, I think it's harder for him to leave that behind.
Well, let's assume he's 26 in this movie. He spent 26 years of his life in the Matrix. So now for you to, like, Justin, right now, you can push that wall and your hand will go through. You fucking believe that?
Oh, man, it's a miracle. Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, but I think the difference is that he saw it happening, right?
True. If I went over and pushed through the wall, you'd be like, oh, fuck, I can do that.
That's exactly right, yeah. Like, he sees Morpheus do it, and Morpheus is like, you're faster and stronger than anybody, dude. You just gotta, like, think that you are and believe it. And I don't know. I understand what you guys are saying about the journey and where his mind would have been, that it would have been tough for him to get to that point. So I'm not displeased with it, I suppose. It makes sense within the context.
How many pairs of sunglasses do you think were broken during the making of this film?
Quite a few, I'm sure. Yeah, quite a few.
It's so many. And, like, they play into it so much, too. Like, Morpheus' glasses break on the headset. Agent Smith, like, the one gets clipped off. Like, Neo, like, throws his aside. Like, I mean, just, like, the sunglass abuse in this movie is, like, hilarious to me for whatever reason.
Yeah. I wonder what's the purpose? There has to be one, right? I mean, anytime they're in the Matrix, both the agents and Morpheus' crew, anytime they're in it, they wear the glasses, whereas in the real world they don't.
Like,
so there's got to be some symbolism there. Yeah, and the leather. So I'm just curious as to why that would be.
Do you think it's because the Matrix is essentially a shadow of what the real world has become, an illusion, and that's why they wear the sunglasses? So, okay, let me see if I can break this down. So, the real world, you don't see anything being brought in because there is essentially no sunlight, correct? Like, we don't see sun in the real world.
Okay. Yes. Right.
So, obviously, number one, you're not going to adapt to that if you don't have some form of protection. So put the sunglasses on. But I'm saying more of as like a concept, like an illusion. Like, people wear stuff to cast out other things. So cast out the illusion of the Matrix to almost where you were in real life. Does that make sense? I know I might have.
Yeah,
I might
I get
work
the concept. Right. I get the concept.
Okay.
Interesting.
You want to do questions, or do we have anything else?
Let's do the questions if you're trying to, work with some time restraints here.
Awesome. You cool with that?
Yeah, cool. Let's roll with it.
Okay. So, your favorite thing about the movie?
From a technical aspect, I thought the cinematography was awesome. Very, very moody, a lot of contrast, a lot of beautiful shots with the lighting and the framing, and a lot of cool things with lines that they did in constructing the shots. So I was surprised it wasn't nominated for the Academy Award, to be honest with you. But I thought the look and feel of it, the color tones of the different worlds, the greens of the Matrix, and then the very dark, muted, like you were talking about before, Josh, of the real world. All around, I thought the visual look of the movie was just fantastic, and it really added to the atmosphere of it all.
I agree. Austin?
So I had two things to this. One I'll say very quickly is the imagination of the fight scenes happening, how choreographed and how that was, not limited to what people would normally see in fight scenes. They broke barriers with that, obviously, from what you said with later superhero movies and everything like that. The other thing I really enjoy is the concept of the coin flip, and I'll explain that. Head and tail, real life, dark, dreary, disturbed. Tails is the imagination matrix and how you would want it to be, but it's not actually what it is. I enjoyed that really well as well.
My favorite thing is the action sequences. Just badass. They were badass. Every time one happened, I was locked right back into the movie, running on walls, one-handed cartwheel gunfight. It was awesome. It was just fucking awesome. Least favorite thing in the movie, part of it.
Probably the romantic subplot at the end, when she brought him back with a kiss. I'm like, this just doesn't fit in this movie. It seems like a studio exec was just like, throw a love scene in there, and that's what they did.
Yeah.
Do we all agree that that's our least favorite?
I think we could probably sleep that. Because otherwise the movie's great.
Yeah.
Even the Oracle part, Austin kind of gave us, not kind of, he gave us a decent explanation for that, right? You could, okay, yeah, sure. There's no fucking need for that. And if you don't believe me, go watch Pacific. Favorite scene?
Oh, probably the end scene, man. That last fight sequence.
In the subway?
Yeah. It was everything that we finally got, and we saw how cool, Keanu Reeves can do, and also him putting on the shades at the end. That was pretty dope.
The red pill and the blue pill scene. A classic of cinema, and the way it was shot, looking through the reflections with a different pill in each lens, was just beautifully done. Very iconic moment. That was the scene for me.
Mine is that, I've said it 1,000 times, that gun sequence where it's the big shootout scene before they go up in the elevator. And even the end of it, where the thing closes and the camera cuts to the line, and just chaos, the one pillar crumbles a little bit.
Total destruction. Yeah.
All about that. That was awesome. Favorite character?
Mr. Smith for me. He was the best because I love the way he spoke. Hugo Weaving has such a fantastic voice, which, as you know, as Megatron or Elrond or other movies that he's been in, and he's actually, I think, Australian, but he has such this deep, very useful voice that he has these cadences that was just so interesting in this film. The way he spoke so slowly and just emphasizing all these things, I thought was just, it made everything he said was just so fascinating and cool. I thought he was the best.
Agreed.
I'm going to go with Morpheus as mine. I love his mysterious demeanor and his absence of, or not his absence, his using of choice to guide the way of Neo and his training of him and just how he is, man. I love Lawrence Fishburne. I just guess I do.
Yeah, good dude.
My favorite is gotta be Neo. I'm a Keanu sucker.
We all are.
I like The Replacements is one of my favorite movies of all time. And like I love the John Wick movies. Anything that guy's in, I'll watch it because he's in it. And so
Yeah.
that's I mean it's fun. Recast one person.
It's really interesting because so many people were in the mix for Neo before Keanu Reeves. Actually, yeah, a lot of people, a lot of big A-listers. Keanu Reeves was not a huge name at that time in the late 90s. I mean, he was a name, but not nearly who he is today. And it's very well known that Will Smith passed on The Matrix in order to do Wild Wild West. So I've always thought about what Will would be like in that role as Neo. But he went to do Enemy of the State, which I think was kind of similar. But I really would have loved to see Big Willie get in on that.
That line, how about I give you the finger and you give me my phone call, in Will Smith's mouth is an A-plus line.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so that's always been one I would have liked to see. Because that's like, he's been very vocal about that being the big regret of his career. But Brad Pitt, I mean, yeah, there were a lot of big name actors that were before Keanu.
I don't like Brad Pitt.
Nah.
Good looking.
Yeah. I don't know that he has the intensity that Keanu brings, because Brad Pitt is more like a laid-back, chill kind of, it's all good, I'm handsome, I like weed, I married Angelina, it's cool. Like, he can do the action, but, yeah. But,
Austin?
You guys?
I'm going to go with an interesting one. I'm going to replace the Oracle with Whoopi Goldberg.
Yes! Yes! 9 out of 9, Austin.
Yeah. I told you you weren't the chosen one now, all right? Yeah, that'd be great.
Wow, I've been thinking about this, and you're not the chosen one. Like, you would be, like, crushed if Whoopi told you you weren't the chosen one.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Justin, who'd you recast?
Neo as Will Smith.
As Will Smith. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I would like to recast Trinity.
Sure.
Okay.
I want Charlize Theron.
Ooh.
Now, she doesn't make her debut until 2003 in Monster. But she would have been 24.
Mm-hmm.
That's not exactly a tough role to play. But I think she has the ability to be that, like, very stern, like, hot, menacing character. She's very good at that. And I just think she would have brought more credence to the community.
Interesting.
Okay.
Plus, then you got 2 blockbuster movies, basically. Like, they would have been the first movies or early movies of their career and then go on to be superstars. Like that. All right. Final bit. Austin. 1 through 10. What do you rate them?
We're going to go with a solid 8.6 out of 10.
Ooh, high one.
This is very much an Austin movie.
Yes, it is. Doesn't have to make a whole lot of sense for the action scenes, but that's the whole point. It's breaking the barriers, it's imagination, which we all have, and this movie expresses it very well.
Yeah, I love it.
Nice. Solid 7.
7?
Solid 7. A solid 7. Not just a 7. Solid 7. It's great for everything it did for sci-fi and blockbusters and action and all this. It's a very technically marvelous movie, well made, very cool. The plot is okay, and yeah, I mean it's good. I don't love it, but it's a solid 7 for
me.
Wow, my original score is like a 5.8, and I thought that was a really good number.
What? That's an F, man. We talked about this. You can't say 5 as like, oh yeah, it was good. I'll give it a 5.
It's middle of the road. It's an average medium. It's a
middle of the road. It's better than that. I mean, if you don't like the story, I mean, for the technical elements alone, this movie was very influential and very incredibly well done.
I'll give
it a 6 for God's sake.
6.8. How about that? No, because like, what did I give a 6.8? I gave a 6.8 to something already. Is it Evil Dead?
All right, 6.81. How's that? This movie's better than Evil
Dead. I'll split the difference. I'll go 7.5. No, that's too high. I don't know.
You're all over the place, man. Yeah.
I
All over
really
the
need to
place.
go back and like look up the numbers that we gave to these movies.
Yeah.
Because I'm just shooting in the dark.
I don't know what you do. You're like, it's a 5, it's a 3, 12. I don't know what I'm doing.
I'm giving it a 34 out of 15.
Nice.
All right. Austin, what movie are you watching?
I'm gonna keep it in the sci-fi realm, boys. We're gonna check out Ex Machina.
Ex Machina. Man, that is a great effing movie. So good.
I don't even know
It came
what
out a
this
few years ago. It's about 5 years ago. You know, it put Alicia Vikander on the map.
Yep.
Has Oscar Isaac, Donald Gleason. Really great cast.
Is it just a bunch of excuses to get out of things?
I
What?
don't understand.
I'm con-
Ex Machina is like the word that they use in plots, right? When like the
Yeah,
character
Deus
shows
Ex
up
Machina. Yeah.
to just get somebody out of something.
Well, this is it's not necessarily in that sense, but it means from the machine in Latin, and this is about a machine, and it's an incredibly well done. It's a very small and intimate movie, but it's really fucking great.
Yeah.
The guy who directed it, Alex Garland, did a movie after this called Annihilation, which was, I'll be honest, was over my head, but he just did a TV show called Devs, which was pretty positively reviewed. He's a big sci-fi guy.
Oscar Isaac. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really solid cast. You'll like, well, I'm not going to say that, but
Yeah.
it's...
You never know with me, man.
I'm going into this one blind as well, guys. I haven't seen this one yet, but I've heard all good things.
Oh,
awesome.
it's great. Yeah, it's fucking great. So
We-
yeah, but it's very low key. It's a lot of dialogue. It's a lot of like concepts and things. It's not action at all. So
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
The last two movies have been very action-driven, so I'm okay with the
Yeah.
slow down dialogue.
yeah, I think you guys are gonna dig this one. It's good.
All right. That's been thoughts from the movies. Next week, Ex Machina. The Austin picks are always awesome to debate and talk about. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Later.